So here we are, folks, another HomeBhoys Extra. Regular listeners might remember that 2 weeks ago I interviewed Chris O'Neil. So today I've got another member of the O'Neil football dynasty in Edinburgh. It's his brother Steven. Now Steven, before we get into this, Chris went on record and said that he was a far better player than you. Would you agree?
Well, I'm still undefeated at knockout down the Civvy, that's for sure. But he was... I couldn't really argue. Got to the point I could no longer argue the case. So I'll have to accept that.
Which is often the case with Chris on everything.
Yeah.
But we should tell people that Steven is actually a coach at Spartans, which gets a lot of press these days. Obviously has the honorary president being Gordon Strachan. So Steven, first of all, can you tell us how you got into coaching?
I go into coaching the same way as a lot of coaches do, actually. I'd taken my own son Callum along to a soccer school when he was 5 or 6. Mm-hmm. And he had been through the soccer school process and he got picked for the next team that were starting for the leagues. So at the time they were looking for coaches and it wasn't going to go ahead if somebody didn't step forward. So my thinking was at the time was it'd be a good chance to spend some time with him. I was going to be there every week, so I put my hand up. I was quite keen to do it.
And what was your earliest experiences? I mean, did you have any real idea what you were letting yourself in for?
No way. It was just the commitment was minimal. You know, we wee kids 5 or 6. It was one training session a week and a wee game on a Sunday, and then you quickly you sort of it takes over.
Yeah,
you really do get involved with it. You start to connect with the kids, and you begin to worry about them, and you want to try and give them an experience, especially in the area that we come from. You know, keeping them off the streets is a big thing. So at the time, it was just had to be done, or there wasn't going to be a team. But pretty quickly, it becomes all-consuming.
And this would be at Dunedin, right?
Yeah, it was
Dunedin.
It was Dunedin Boys Club, which was just a local club based down in Royston. It was a new start. That's we had seen the advert for. They wanted to extend their youth section. I think they'd always been quite a successful. I wouldn't say adult side, but I think they'd always had a 21 side.
Yeah.
And they were trying to sort of extend that. It was actually Royston Rangers at first, and then the guys at Royston Rangers fell out, and then we joined Dunedin. So that's what it was. So it was the same group of kids. So, which is often the case with these teams. You got a lot. We see it every year. You got a new team starting up. They have a good season, and then they disappear.
Aye.
And that happened with Dunedin. It wasn't sustainable. So that's how we ended up with Spartans. We didn't want to break up the team we had, so we took them lock, stock and barrel along to Spartans, who were extending their youth section, and they gave us the opportunity to come in and just keep the guys together, you know.
I mean, first of all, you paint a picture of Spartans for people who don't know the area that Steven and I were born and bred in, Muirhouse in Edinburgh. Didn't have a lot of facilities, shall we say, to say the least. Now all of a sudden there's an academy there which is the envy of most people in Scotland. What was the process like actually joining Spartans?
For us it was really quite easy, because one of the guys that I coached the team with, his boy was in our team as well, and you got to remember the kids were still only at this point 9 or 10 or 9s or something. He was quite involved. Brian Garrett is his name. He lives down in Royston, and he was quite involved with Spartans anyway. I think he always sort of was quite involved with some pals that played for the senior team at the time. He always helped out, so he had someone's ear, and he said, look, we've got this team, we didn't want to lose, we've got some good kids, can we come along? And it happened fairly. 1 week we were Royston, we were Dunedin, and the next week we were Spartans.
And I mean, obviously Spartans is a well-established club, even though the pitch that they previously played on at City Park wasn't the best, so we say. But in terms of the difference that was expected of you as a coach, what was that like? Well,
it became a lot more. I mean, as I say, it happened pretty quick. But we became one team in that group, that age group, 99. So I think at the time there was 3 other teams, and playing in different leagues, and very quickly, you know, Spartans were a lot more switched on. You know, things like making sure all your disclosures were done, and you had your coaching badges and everything. We had to be a lot better. I thought the financial side was a lot easier as well when you're running a a team in a smaller club, it's all cash for kids. I mean, that cost me a fortune every week because I had kids coming from Bolton who never had the money. I only chased them, so I just made sure my team's dues were paid every week. So that was a big advantage for me. The organisation behind it and the people and getting all the training courses for your first aid and stuff like that, they just made sure that all happened. So it was great.
Tell us about what it was like getting your coaching badges.
Well, to be honest, we spoke about this before. I'm not really that concerned with going through all the SFA badges, to be honest. I'd done what I had to do for it to be legal for me to coach, so I only done a few courses, and it was fairly straightforward. You know, the first course I done, I laughed. It sort of put me off because the first real course I done was as a parent when I was at Royston Rangers. I was on with janitors for school and primary school teachers and stuff, and I remember the guy took to me because obviously I was the only person in the room that never kicked a football, you know, and he used me for, he was just a young guy himself, he was using me for all the examples, and the fact that I could pass the ball 2 yards was really, he was dead happy about that because I just found that a bit of a joke, to be honest. It was people just doing it because they were trying to get a tick in a box or another wee certificate. I think I was the only one on the course that was actually a football coach.
Jesus,
but I mean that was a long time ago now.
That cost you money?
No, the club puts you through that.
Right.
I'm very lucky, and my team at Spartans is the actual coaching side. I've got a couple of guys that work with me in our team that are, you know, have all. I mean, Tom has just done his C licence, going on to his B licence, but he does that for a living, you know.
Yeah.
So his daytime jobs involves coaching kids as well. So he's got aspirations to go further with it, and that's been. We needed someone like that because you need someone to a certain level on the coaching badges in your team, and the other thing is it frees up a lot of time for me as a coach, as the sort of head coach. I can say I want to work on this week, or I want to work on that, and he's really organised, you know. At first I thought he was mental. I really did. I thought he was just, you know, me, and he was the most organised person in the world, you know. He's sending me Excel spreadsheets and Word documents before every training session saying I'm going to do this, and it's all down to the minute, and he's really structured. And I thought it was crazy, but the further we go, I know that the kids we discuss what we want to do in blocks, what we want to work on, and it's obviously as the kids have got older, they're under 17s now, the training becomes more complex, you know, tactical shapes and things like that. We have to work on certain things, and he's been really, really good. So I've got him, and there's another young guy that helps us, Greg, and then me and the other guy Jim Pringle do most of the organising, fundraising and all that sort of stuff.
I mean, it's funny you talk about the kind of level of coaching and the detail and all that. One of the things that surprised me was when Celtic played Porto in Seville. I didn't realise this at the time, probably nobody did, but years later I found out that Andre Villas-Boas wrote a 45-page document on our team for Porto. Discussed every single player down to the point where what kind of fouls they look for and all this kind of thing. And I often think, did we do the same about their players? I doubt it.
I doubt it very much.
But we'll talk about your philosophy and that. But let's talk about your actual team and the success that you started to bring into the club.
Okay. We had a lot of success last year. I mean, the fact of the matter is we went a long time with no trophies, and like a lot of teams, that's what makes it so special for me. Is last year we won the Scottish Cup, we won the league, we won 2 domestic cups, we had kids winning the regional trophy for our team, which was fantastic, and it was like a crazy 3 or 4 months where all the cup finals came, and we just couldn't lose. But last year was a combination of a lot of hard work, and we went through a lot of the things that a lot of teams go through. You know, it says we actually at Spartans we had an idea to stream the talent, and that was a hard process. And just last year it came together, but we've been through it. We've been through the 10-0 defeats and all that. We've done that for years, and the really good thing was it just got better, and by and large the same group of kids, so they did improve started to understand the game, they all grew into their bodies, and it just sort of came together last year.
It's funny you say that actually, because kids growing into their bodies. I mean, you take your own son, and we'll come on to him as well. At a family wedding last year, he tapped me on the shoulder and started talking to me, and it was you talking to me, but you 20 years ago, do you know what I mean? He became a man. And what I wanted to ask you though about that was, how important is winning for these kids?
For the kids, they want to win. There's no doubt. They've always wanted to win, and they always took the defeats harder than the coaches. You know, that's part of the thing. When they're younger, they have to go through that, I think. I mean, you're a lucky kid that... You do have lucky kids that go straight... I've got kids in my team that went for their soccer schools, went straight into Hutchie Vale or whatever, and just won. You know, I've got kids in my team that have only been beat 4 or 5 times their whole life. That's the way it goes. But for them, they want to win, and now at 17s, they really, you know, the competitive spirit is such a big part of the success. But this is part of it. You know, you have to go through the defeats, and you have to take them for what they are, and they have to learn. They have to learn for the defeats. But it's a hard thing. I was taught that you can't get too high, and you can't get too low. You know, a good coach sort of tries to stay. You know, winning's no everything for me. If they win and they haven't played well and not doing the things we're working on, then it doesn't really do anything for me. But at the same time, the kids do go out to win, and the teams that we're playing now are out to win as well. You know. And that was, I think, there was a point where that was really relevant, because we had given them that philosophy that, you know, let's do this, let's do that, and what happens, don't get upset. And I think there were other teams we were coming up against that were totally focused on winning. You know, and they were a wee bit more ruthless with the kids. And we were never like that. So it's not the Spartans philosophy. You know? So that's it's a balancing act. You know, winning's important. I mean, at the end of the day, we worry about winning tournaments and getting to World Cups or whatever. You know?
I mean, it's something
it's a hard thing.
I know it happens at Spartans a lot, where I know they're trying to teach one thing, but the kids want to win. I mean, that's why they're playing. That's why they keep scoring and all that, and you have to balance it out.
Well, there's so many things involved in that. You know, I mean, the kids themselves. You know what kids are like. If you're playing in the field of Muirhouse when you're younger, the weakest ones shouldn't get picked. You know, it's that old thing. Picking teams, and the wee lad that gets picked last, you know, that's the bare bones of it. The kids themselves will spot a weak link, and if it's your job as a coach to understand that lad is struggling, he's reached his ceiling and he's not having an opportunity to flourish, and if the best thing to do for that kid is to take him out of the team and put him to a lower level, he can come back. It's all about game. At that age, it's all about game time and having an opportunity to play. And you learn nothing sitting on the bench. You learn nothing if you're on the pitch and you're scared to pass the ball or make a mistake. So it's sort of natural selection. But the natural selection can be you know, you can counteract it by giving a kid an opportunity to play. It happened with Callum. You know, we talked about the streaming at Spartans. We had 3 teams at our age group, and we had a mixture in each team, and we felt that we should really have a team that, and it's not really to win trophies, it was just about taking the kids with a better ability and letting them play at a higher level. So the idea was we would have a team in each division, each team competing, winning enough games. You know, we didn't want to sweep the board or anything like that. It wasn't really the philosophy, but we wanted to give everybody a level to play at. And that was a really hard process, because you had 3 teams and 3 coaches, and everybody sticking up for their own kids, and who's going to take the top team and all this sort of stuff. And a lot of the guys were parents, so we were trying to make it so the kids weren't playing for the parents, and logistically that doesn't work. But the kids themselves accepted the decisions a lot easier than the parents. The 3rd team folded within about 3 weeks because everybody was in the huff. The 2nd team carried on, and the 1st team got to where we wanted to be. But the 2nd team, it was supposed to be a fluid process. If that lad was struggling, drop down for 6 months, you know, play some games. But unfortunately, it doesn't really work like that, you know, because nobody wants to go down. They all want to come up.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things I want to talk about. First of all, you talked about game time. Now, Chris said 2 weeks ago that one of the things that really helped him, that Chris is obviously, you're a couple of years younger than me, Chris is 5 or 6 years younger than us. He played football with us, and that helped him develop as a football player, because there was no hiding place in the games.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And there was a lot of good players there as well.
Yep.
But do you think that is the key to our success as a country, bringing players through, is to get kids playing as much football as possible?
I think so. I mean, the kids play a lot of football now. The organised games and stuff are great, a lot better than what we had, you know.
Yeah.
Lots of different tournaments for them to play in. The coaches are pretty proactive in putting them into tournaments and giving them variety opposition. But you touched on it last week as well, is that when you spoke to Chris, I picked up on the fact that you had mentioned that how much football is actually being played.
Yeah.
My son doesn't play in the street. No. He's been at pro youth, he's played for international select sides. Very rarely will you see him kicking a ball in the street or in the garden. They don't do it. So the high quality training that we give them for 2 hours a week and the match on a Saturday still equates to 3 or 4 hours. So we do that in an afternoon, every afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, and the natural skill that you pick up for that, you know, that's where you hone that.
Yeah.
The kids, and we've got a mix of kids. We've got a mix of kids at Spartans, you know, for backgrounds. You know, we've always been classed as the posh team in Edinburgh. We do have lots of kids that go to Harriet's and the Edinburgh Academy and all that sort of stuff. But we also have a mixture of the kids for Paul and Muirhouse, and it's an unfortunate. It's the kids that are more streetwise, and you know, you've got kids at 9-10-year-olds, and you know they're just far too wide for their own good. Yeah. But they spend a lot of time in the street, and they're inevitably the ones that you look at and you go, wow, you know, that wee kid, 10-year-olds doing things with football, and you just know that he's nowhere else to go, he's nothing else to do. He is the one kicking the ball off the wall for hours and hours. So
I mean, it's funny, like, I'll come on to something back in a minute, but you mentioned here about the kind of different classes of kids in terms of the backgrounds. It's kind of funny because I talked about a couple of weeks ago playing for Craigie, and when you played against perceived posh schools, you're thinking, posh kids, we'll take them apart. And I can't remember which one it was, one of them, and they came off a team bus. And they had a team bus right away, and they were men. We were all skinny wee laddies that were probably undernourished and all that, and they came out like men and wiped the flare with you. But do you think the wide football's going, and this is something that's been swirling about for a while, the kind of games that you're talking about and the levels you're talking about is becoming a bit middle class just because you need a car and you need to go places and things?
It is a problem, you know. There is a fairly good mix, you know, but what you'll find is the bigger teams, horrible to say this, the Spartans, the Tynecastles, the Hutchinson Vales, they will attract the better players for different areas. You have a bigger choice. Whereas if you're playing Musselburgh, who are a very good side, by the way, knocked us out the Scottish Cup last week, you know, they're one of the very few teams to beat us, but maybe their pool is Musselburgh. Yeah. So you'll get the Musselburgh kids, whereas and you'll get these focused areas. But the bigger sides, we've always had kids from all over, and I suppose the harsh reality is if you've got your kid at Edinburgh Academy, you do want your kid go to Pub Sport Club, you know. You know, is that fair to say?
Well, no, I think it is. I mean, I think whatever anybody thinks, and you've seen it from sort of both sides of the track, is that people didn't come to Muirhouse.
They don't.
For what reason?
Nobody travels on a bus to come and play in Muirhouse. We don't even have a team in Muirhouse.
I mean,
Craig Royston.
I remember, Christ, what age am I now? 41. Probably 30 years ago, travelling on a bus, a 14 or something, with guys from my area to play a game in Greendykes, which might have well been the Moon. You know what I mean? Go up there, and everybody, and half the people went there tooled up. You know what I mean? Because you're thinking. But and another thing I want to talk about, we touched on it, was the parents. Now, I'm a parent, my son played for Spartans, I've seen it It's an absolute nightmare, isn't it? I mean, they are an absolute nightmare, and I know you can't say too much, but...
No, I can't. I mean...
My philosophy is I have to give you, the coach, the same respect I give a school teacher. You're entrusted. I'm entrusting you with my son. But they're just... A lot of parents are screaming, ranting, raving.
We've had experiences all over Scotland. Just turns your blood cold, you know.
Can you share a few?
I don't know. It's difficult. I mean, wherever you go, there's always one. I mean, I'm quite lucky, to be fair. The parents I've got in my group are pretty good.
Yeah.
A, because we win most of the time, and B, because we wouldn't allow it to happen. I've got no problem saying you're not helping the team. Shut your mouth. You're making it worse. Yeah. We've always had the philosophy as well as we've tried to teach the kids, especially at the age, and the parents, that the referee is something that can be played as well. I don't mean that in a bad way. But if we're screaming at the referee for bad decisions or whatever, it just makes it worse. Subconsciously, that referee's gone, these guys are a bunch of fucking idiots, you know. So we always drum that into the kids. You know, be polite, accept the decisions. If something has to be argued against, I'll argue it. So other than a really bad tackle and there's a reaction, we don't really get it, but we have come across it. I mean, I would, maybe some people would say our team were the same, but we've come across it all over. We played a big game in the Scottish Cup last year through in Glasgow, and I've never seen anything like it. Yeah. I genuinely felt scared, you know. Yeah. I genuinely felt scared.
No, I've seen that
for the kids, and I don't know, it seems to be accepted in some places, you know. It depends on the coach, I think. I think the coach leads that. I think the coach leads that attitude. Yeah. If a coach is an effer and a blinder and running up the touch and screaming, shouting at kids, you know, you see the way they treat some of the kids, dragging them off the park if they make a mistake or something like that. And it does happen, you know. If you do get those types. We played in the Glasgow City Cup 2 years in the Trops, a great big tournament, really big tournament, but it's a good pre-season one. It's 3 days and you play 3 games, 3 games a day, and it's really good quality teams that go there. It's age groups all over. It's in Paisley, I think it's Renfrew Kings Park.
Right, okay.
So it's a big city. There's pitches, games all over the place. It's great, but it's fighting everywhere, you know. It's fighting everywhere. People with prams running on the pitch, shouting at each other. I just didn't think it's worth that, getting that upset. And if I know that if my parents will be laughing at me because I do sometimes get angry, you know. But you listen to this. But if I lead the touchline like that, and I let the other coaches in my team act like that, the kids think they can act like that, the parents can think they can act like that, and all that happens is you have the other touchline screaming, shouting back at you. Now we've had our moments. Yeah. Every team has, but it has to be driven for the Spartans wouldn't allow it either, really. Yeah. But some of the parents need. It's the old thing. A lot of the parents are playing their games through the kids. Yeah. Talked about streaming and the quality of the kids. The kids accepted it. They can see that. I'm Johnny. I'm as good as Jimmy, but I'm not as good as Bob. I'll go on that team. I'm fine with that. Parents just didn't. They can't accept it. You know, And now that ours are 17, I don't really have that much contact with the parents now. You know, the kids are all the communication's done with the kids themselves. They're young men now, so. But I've always said we've been lucky with our squad. We have been in places, you know.
But you obviously, you said yourself you're a parent, you're a coach, and your own son has been very successful as a player, and he's dabbled with some of the bigger clubs and that as well. I mean, can you tell the sort of experiences he's had, getting picked up by Hearts, things like that? I mean, good or bad? Or
with Callum, Callum's one of these players that we talk, you know, where you sort of grow into it. Mm-hmm. Callum, when we done that streaming process, Callum never made the first team at Spartans. Yeah. Instead of going on a half, he got his head down, he played more football. It was a perfect example of how it works. He got his head down, he got more game time, and he just got his confidence. And within 6 months, he was in the first team at Spartans, and within 3 months, he was at Hearts. Yeah. Just because he came on at a certain time, and he's not the most talented player in the world, but he's a really hard worker. He's got the attributes you want. You know, he's fast, he's brave, a wee bit. He's not an overly skillful player. You know, I can still do more keeping uppies than him now, and I always slag him for that. You know, but it's because he doesn't practice in the garden. He's playing his Xbox. But he's got a great wee spirit, you know. He really, you know that when you put him on the pitch, he's given 100%, and he just had he just had a 6-month period where he just really came on, started to show up, and a couple of scouts came to look at him, and the next thing you know, he's training at Hearts, and then they signed him, and he went into that process. The good thing about Cam, and I don't know if it's maybe because I understood it more and I was more open with him, you know, I think when a lot of kids get that phone call, they're overnight celebrities in their own households, you know, we didn't allow that to happen. I told him right from the very start what it was all about, you know, and to be fair, you know, if you look at the Hearts, I don't know if it's still there, but at the time, if you look at the Hearts Youth Development website, they're very clear about what they expect out of their academy. They're very clear about how many people are expected to make it.
Yeah.
And we spoke about that from day one. Cam himself, we're all big jambos, as you know. Yeah. Cam himself asked me to take him out his Hearts after about 8 months. A couple of reasons for that. I mean, I think he, as you say, understood where he was in the pecking order. He didn't really think that he was, you know, going to go much further. They were getting to that age group where they jumped from 15s to 17s, so there's a pretty big cull at the end of 15s. He knew himself. He just said, I'd rather come and play for Spartans in the last 6 months of the season, Dad, because they didn't fancy me. He felt that it didn't matter what he'd done, and that's the sad thing about that. I thought he felt that he was saying to me, well, there wasn't enough game time for one, because they have a big squad and it was mass changes and that, so at best you're only maybe getting 60 minutes and a week you want to play, and he was coming on as a sub as a lot, and the way he evaluated it was that I'm coming on and we're doing better in the second half, and then I come next week, why don't I get a start? It's the same again. He didn't feel that there was any reward for the good play, which is something that coaches really have to take in consideration. It's too much, even with young kids. It probably happens in the professional game, but you know, if Ibrahimovic has a stinker in training, you know, for PSG, he still starts on Saturday.
Of course.
Kids see that. They see that they're working. You're telling them to work hard and do the things, and Cam didn't think that was happening. And he just said to me, there's no point in take me out. I said to the coach at the time, right, just release him, you know. The guy looked at me like I was for the moon. Excuse me? I said, just let him go. I said, I'll get that done for you. I said, I'll just get it done tomorrow. Come back. And I was happy. It was a decision that he made, and he made it, but so many of them come back devastated.
Of course.
And most of the kids in our team have been through it at some point.
I mean, do you think it helped you because you kind of been through it with Chris and seen how he developed and then getting into the team and all that kind of thing? And
I think the big difference from Chris's age to now is when Chris got picked up for Hearts, I think they maybe had 14 or 15 kids at that age group for that year. Now, everybody that has a half-decent game gets an opportunity to go to the Hibs Academy or the Hearts Academy or Livingston. You know, they have there's so much emphasis on youth development. They don't have the money to spend on players, so it's youth. So they throw this big massive net. Hundreds of kids every year are going through these academies, and one or two of them are going to make it for every age group. Well, that's a chance you take. It's not a chance I would ever ask Cam to turn down. But and I have to say to all the kids that get that phone call, and I've said it all the time to the mums that they're all excited up because it comes to me, you know, Livingston are interested in looking at it, laddie. You have to say to them, he's not a football player. You have to take it for what it is. Extra training with better coaches. That's what I always say. Extra training with better coaches, with better players. Playing with better players brings you on. And Cam came back for Hearts a better player, I would say. I think he learned a lot. But he didn't come back happy. I mean,
because it's a ruthless business, though, isn't it?
It is ruthless. And the big difference for me as a parent involved in that, I was really quite upset at first about the communication between the parents and the coaches, but then you realise that that's the game. They didn't want any personal relationships because tomorrow they might have to crush this lad.
Exactly.
So, but I do find it fairly ruthless. It's a fairly ruthless process, and far too many kids go into it sort of blind. you know, they get that phone call, they think they're a football player. If you're 10-year-old, it's natural, you know.
Of course.
I think the parents don't help as well, because they start treating the kid like a celebrity, and then then they're discarded, you know. And it's almost like, you know, we have kids coming to us for pro youth. I got a phone call, I've been released for wherever. Can I come and train for Spartans? And I don't sign them because I don't think they're better than what they've got.
Yeah.
I played for Livingston, and you're like, so what?
So have 200 other guys, you know what I mean?
You know, that's
a wee bit like X Factor in effect, isn't it? I mean,
that's what it is.
Start for a day and then boom, discarded away.
It is a shame, and I think they have to do something about the academy system. I think the old S form sort of system was a lot fairer. I think the clubs have to show a bit of responsibility, or certainly be a bit clearer as to what the percentage. I went up to Hearts. I don't even pick on Hearts, but I sat through a parent thing where it was some guy stood up and was talking to me about keeping my kids' emotional tank full and all this sort of stuff, you know. I'm thinking, what? He's knocking his pan in the training and he's doing well enough in games, and it's the same every week. It's hard, but there's something going wrong.
Yeah.
You know, between what the philosophy is, and the philosophy is right, you know, to getting it down to the sort of grassroots here, you know, getting it over to the kids and the parents. It's something's missing somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think it's that word winning that comes really. It's that's the spanner in the works.
Yeah. I mean, Chris talked about. It's probably the first time I'd ever heard him admit it when I asked him that he had a chip on his shoulder after he was released by Hearts and was never really the same again. How important do you think attitude is now for players who are going to push through?
Attitude's everything.
Yeah.
Everything. I mean, talent is one thing. Hundreds of kids with talent, but the ones that stand out for me are the ones that just, you know, run through brick walls. Yeah. You can't teach them that. As a coach, you can teach a kid to do a pass or a skill or how to header it better or whatever. You can't teach that thing that you can see it a mile off. You know, I've got a wee lad in my team called Lewis Hall, and he is an absolute. He's a good football player, don't get me wrong, but you couldn't. His attitude on the pitch is just second to none. For the minute the whistle goes to the game's over, absolutely, you know, totally engrossed in the game. Everything he does is for the team. He runs his heart out, never complain. Well, he does complain, but you know. But then the whistle goes, he's a different boy.
Well, it is.
And he's like that at training as well.
Aye,
it's just pure winner.
I always think, like if saying a player, I always think, are they going to go to war for us?
Yeah.
Tommy Burns used to call it the fire in the belly.
Yep.
You know, it's so essential, and it's so, you know, back in the day, in our era, we never really had much else going on but football. We watched football and we played football and we argued about football, and you know, that's all we did. Now it's completely different. As a coach, you get young guys. How hard is it with all the distractions that they now have in their lives?
I think the ones at our level, where we are now, the kids that say they're all got the right attitude. It is difficult though, because when they're a wee bit younger, some parents have got their kids in there as a babysitting service. They're not really, you know, that's the thing. The kids that we've got now have been through it, and they're there by choice, and they dedicate their 2 nights a week, and they don't go out. They're 17 now. I'm sure a lot of their pals are out at parties for a beer and all that, and they have their Friday nights in the house. So for me now, I know that I've got a squad full of laddies that will give their all. You have to motivate them on the day, but it's just something that I don't know how anybody can do. I think you're born with that, you know. You do need it, and with all the things going on, you lose a lot of kids. You lose a lot of kids to other things. You know, I had one lad who come to me one time, and he says, his mum says to me, he's not coming. He's going to take up street dancing. I thought, he's a good laddie, but maybe he'd be better off with street dancing, you know. What can you say to that?
I mean, it's funny, like...
He's complaining 1 week about not getting a game, and next week he's street dancing.
It's funny you mention that because...
Hip-hop.
Anywhere I've went and met new people, different backgrounds, cultures, whatever, And so what are you interested in? It's kind of like, well, beer and football and women, and that's really it. You always go and I'll see, like, when we were brought up, if you had some diverse interest, like, you'd have been killed.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
You're a dead man.
Maybe they would have stood for that. It just wouldn't have happened. And it's, as I say, now it's totally different. And even my son James played with Spartans a couple of weeks ago. They never had a game because there was 6 players on holiday abroad. Like, what?
That's the Spartans thing, though.
Aye, like,
you're skiing.
You know, the idea of going abroad, when you're a family holiday abroad when you were young, there was no chance, you know what I mean?
I know.
But let's talk about Scottish football in general. I mean, you're a big Scotland international fan.
Yeah, well,
What about the last campaign?
I think there's progress made. You know, it must be said that the last few years, as the kids' football takes up more time, I haven't really been. I sort of watch them from the outside. I've not been to as many Hearts games as I once did. We're now playing a Saturday, so it's difficult. And the international games certainly haven't been about. I obviously watch them all. You know, I do all the travelling and work, but I think Strachan's made good progress. I genuinely think there was we were unlucky in a lot of those games. In the game, I think we should have beat Georgia away. That's the biggie, but that's the kind of game we lose. But I think we've got quite a strong team. I'm certainly happy with Strachan and his coaching staff, because I wasn't too pleased with what went on before it, to be honest. A couple of duds, I think. I felt more engaged with the Scotland team. Probably I was really quite fanatic about it during McLeish's era, which I loved, and then it sort of went downhill. A couple of bad choices and the wrong people for the job, and really I don't think we had the players, but I think we've got quite a good squad now. I don't think we're too far away. We just need to go that wee bit further. That's the thing, you know. We could be saying the same thing in 4 years' time. I don't know if we need an overhaul again.
I think the first thing about it is, I think the problem with Scotland always is, you know, you can say all the progress thing, and then you could lose the first 2 games of the next qualifier, and suddenly it's all over again, and it's back to square one. But the thing you talked about, the wee edge, do you think that Martin O'Neill was able to get more out of ordinary players than Strachan does, and that's how we managed to squeak over the line?
Well, you probably know better than that than me, but you've experienced them both with Celtic, you know. But I've always thought that Martin O'Neill, I've always liked Martin O'Neill. I always think the way you only hear him in interviews, but I find him quite inspirational. You know, I don't know if it's his clough training or whatever, I just think he's got that wee bit of thing about him. I mean, he's not had success everywhere he's went, but I just think in the right role, I think that he could motivate me as a player in the change room. I think he's the kind of guy that people want to play for. And I'm not saying that Strachan's no, but you know, I thought we were better in Ireland for the whole campaign.
No, I think you're right.
Even in play, you know, I think that's the fine lines. I think there's a certain amount of luck involved, you know, as well. I think we played some good football, better than what they produced. And if we had beat Georgia and we'd been in that playoff, I think we'd beat Bosnia as well, you know. But
I think individually Scotland have got better players, but Ireland just seem to have that.
I think where Strachan went wrong was towards the end in the hard games. I think he made some. The only doubt about him was he made some strange decisions, you know, like bringing Hanley on when it's desperate. I need a striker to come on. Everybody's screaming, "Keep Griffiths again," you know. And I'm a jambo, you know how I feel about Griffiths.
No, I know.
But I think he should have started.
Well, it seems to be a Scottish thing that we do, where you go into games needing goals and you've got a guy who's scoring every week, and we'll just leave him on the bench.
But the other thing that I don't know. I mean, you're not seeing him in training, and you don't know. I mean, I think being a coach and having quite a successful team myself, you know that sometimes I'll pick the players that I can guarantee I'm going to get a level. Do you know what I mean? You've got players in your squad that are capable of that wee bit genius, and you take the chance. And more often than not, you do take the chance because you're letting down the other. You can't afford at that level to be carrying somebody on a bad game. So I think that's maybe what's influenced Stratton. But I think he made some strange subs and stuff, and he maybe panicked a wee bit for a wee period of time. But I think all in all, we're in pretty good shape. I think, and it's the group for the World Cup's doable. I think certainly we're not expecting us to beat England, but no. But I think we could I don't know, is it straight through second place or is it playoff?
I think it is, but I don't think there's any third place thing this time.
I think
but I do think the England game at Celtic Park last year was a bit of a wake-up call for a few people, because they were miles ahead, you know what I mean? So it's not a great England team. But tell me about, obviously you're a Hearts supporter, how have Hearts been able to win the league last year, the Championship, and now they're second in the... Why do you think that is, in the top league?
I think, for me, I know there's a lot of new players in the team, but I think what some of those young kids went through the season we went down was probably the best thing that had ever happened. We talk about game time and growing and understanding, you know. I think once the pressure was off and we were relegated, we started to see an improvement right away. You know, some decent results and winning's a habit, losing's a habit. Last year in the Championship, they done, I think, even me. And again, it's just the name. I didn't expect us to beat Rangers last year and come up first. I really didn't, because Rangers are Rangers and Hearts are Hearts. But the further the season went, the more I realised that we're better than them. You know, they're not very good. And,
probably because Rangers aren't the Rangers.
Yeah, Rangers should have done what Hearts done. You know, I think Hearts were prepared to stay in that division another year, and they decided to go with, if they had to. They decided to go with what they had. We had to go with what we had.
Well, I mean, it's funny you say that, because I know for a fact, and we obviously never released this at the time, but I know for a fact that Hibs budgeted for 2 years in the Championship.
Like you have to.
And look at them now. You know what I mean? They're much better prepared to go up this year than they were last year, even though they almost did. But
they better just hope that they get first place, because there's no way Hibs will win a playoff. I'll see that now. There's no way. I just believe that they've got they're good enough.
You know what's going to happen? They're going to get the playoffs against Mixus Dundee United.
Well, they won the first leg 2-0, and they have a party, and they forget that it was 2 legs. I won't joke, but the Hearts, I think they've done the right things, and this year, the reason they're doing so well, I don't really like there's. I think out with maybe Celtic and Aberdeen, who I would say were both better than Hearts. I don't think anybody's any better than us.
I agree. That's kind of where I was going with that.
That's the gulf there.
There's no really a good side in Hearts.
I mean,
you know, having 16,000 at Tynecastle is a huge advantage. Having Lavinia, whatever you think about him in the background, is a huge advantage. And just, I think Hearts, a lot of Hearts fans do have a sense of entitlement, in the sense that they didn't belong in the Championship and they belong.
Well, we certainly think we're a Premier League team. I mean, that's where we deserve to be. You know, I think we had sort of cemented our position as the best out with Rangers and Celtic. I think we were all comfortable in that spot. We were looking to try and get in between yous. But we should be in the Premier League, you know. We're a big club with a big history, but that's not always enough, you know. You have to produce. Look at Leeds, you know. Look at the teams in England. Look at that Championship in England. Some of the teams that are in it and where they have been and what you expect them. You have to produce on the pitch. You have to produce on the pitch. It's simple as that. Otherwise, it means nothing.
Yeah, true. A couple of things to wind things up. I mean, obviously we're talking about Gordon Strachan. He's the honorary president of Spartans. You ever had any interaction with him there?
I've seen him strolling about the training park a couple of times. I've seen him down there a few times, but
never gave him any tips or that?
No, I just.
But you can.
He went to Solvay, I went to Muirhouse.
Well, that's the thing. I was just going to say that's exactly what I was just going to say.
Silver News boy.
Forget Israel and Palestine. That was the rivalry. But you can, coming from Muirhouse, and I said the same to Chris, the same to me. You can see Muirhouse in Gordon Strachan.
Aye.
Sarcasm, and he doesn't take any, you know. And a lot of people didn't like that. A lot of Celtic fans couldn't take to that. But I could recognise it, because that's, go for a pint in the Gunner, that's what everybody's like, you know what I mean? Or,
yeah, I know. You're sort of bred into it, you know. You have to have that sort of attitude to there, or you're going to get anywhere in life, you know. It's about seeing people coming, you know. You get honed in on people straight away, and you're already thinking about what they're trying to get at. You know, the question's not always a question, and Strachan always got that. Strachan sort of knew. He knows that people are trying to set him up for that sound. He's set up for that.
Shots ahead.
Exactly, and they're trying to set him up for that soundbite that you will be on Sky Sports for the next 3 days. You know, so I always like that about him. You know, He's, but he was like that as a player as well. That's I had more interaction when I was at Craigroyce. He used to come back as a Man United player.
I know he did, and he'd done a lot for Craigroyce. But were you no part of a thing that interviewed him?
I did. That was years ago. Christ, I forgot. He came back and gave us strips, and we done an interview that day. And my team actually, when I played for Bolton, we went down to Old Trafford as his guests, and that was something that I'll never ever forget.
He did do a lot. He did. Oh, seriously, he did do a lot for the area, and he did keep coming back. He didn't just go right. It's
about aspiration for the kids, to see somebody. To be able to say Gordon Strachan went to Craigroyce and played for Man United, and it can happen. That's the kids need these kinds of people because too often, and it's not, we're talking about Muirhouse and Bolton and that because that's where we come from, but it's the same everywhere. So many kids didn't look beyond their scheme. They're 10-year-old or 15-year-old and they're resigned to be in there the rest of their life.
I can remember the days when going over to Chippy was an adventure because that was like a different area of the area. That's a really good thing about Spartans actually. Bringing it back to Spartans. The really, really good thing is see my boy Cam now. He can go anywhere. He's got friends in Leith. He's got friends in Southside. This is the Twitter and the Facebook. They all know each other. So I remember going to my granny's that lived in Bolton, and I thought, I'm going to get them in here. Go see your granny. Go and take that to your granny. I'm thinking, expedition or jump through back greens because that's a road separating two areas, and that doesn't. I don't think that happens anymore. I'm sure the police would say they have their moments, but I don't think that happens anymore. I know that my son can go anywhere, and he doesn't have that, and that's a good thing. And that's what community football brings. Exactly how it should be. And finally, I asked Chris, I'll ask you the same. Do you think your brothers have held you back this life?
No, I think they'll probably say I've held them back, to be fair. No.
What, even Chris?
I try not to get involved with them, to be honest. I just try to stay as far clear of them as possible, especially Chris.
You can't say fairer than that, folks. Thanks, Stephen, for his time. Some good insight in the Spartans there. Background noise was provided to you by Platform 5 at Haymarket in Edinburgh. This was a HomeBhoys Extra for Haymarket Media, and we'll see you again soon.